Hello Internet, and today is going to be another book opinion, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book. And today's book is going to be Draw the Line by Laurent Linn. So this book follows a young gay teen in the middle of Texas. He's struggling with life because he's closeted and he doesn't want to come out of the closet because of fear. He also has this thing about drawing. He's a great artist, he loves drawing, but of course he keeps that closeted too. He currently has an online blog sort of thing where he uploads his comic sketches of his own creation, and he doesn't put his own name on it because of things that have happened in the past. So we follow this kid and he starts to see that there is a very good reason why he fears coming out of the closet and telling everyone that he likes guys, because not everyone is accepting, because we have horrible bigoted people who are a bunch of assholes. So this book, the main consensus of this book is talking about fear and very real fears that you have. Also how to deal with a problem in which there is no go-to answer. The world isn't black and white. There's no yes or no. There is no good or bad per se, and there is no easy answer to solve your problem. We follow this kid and we figure out that he is really scared of the world. He's scared of the world because he knows that in his area of Texas, he lives in the deep south, that they're not going to be accepting of him as a homosexual because he has seen how they have treated others who are out and more flamboyant than him. So he doesn't want to tell anyone. So there's only one or two people who know. And then he doesn't want to tell anyone about his art or share it because when he was a kid, people used to trash his art, write profanities on it whenever he would present it to others. So he's scared of how other people react to who he is. Slowly he starts to have a self-discovery of when you need to let go of your fear and stand up for yourself, when to not shame yourself for something that is not shameful at all, right? So one day, he doesn't want to tell anyone. He has two friends. One is this very, very tall emo kid, and one is this very, very bold black girl, and they're his only two friends, and they're all out eating. And he witnesses one of the boys he knows is flamboyant and out of the closet walk outside because someone has just vomited on this kid's car, and he goes to clean it up because he doesn't want the vomit ruining the paint job, and this is a fairly expensive and nice looking car. And when he comes out, he doesn't speak to anyone in this crowd of people surrounding the drunk vomiter, and he tries to wipe the puke off the car, but the man gets beaten up. So our story goes from there. And we see how this kid deals with the fact that someone who is within his same category has just been attacked, has just been hurt, has almost been beaten to death, and no one cares. The kid responsible is the popular kid at school. He's a jock, he's an athlete, he's a football player. The people surrounding him were all the bubbas of the town, all the nice people. The kid who got beat up was just the unimportant homosexual that no one cares about. The kid responsible for that beating, his father is in the police station. He is a police chief of some sort. So we get to see how bigoted the community is and how that works against this boy and people like him, and how he sees the injustice of it all. Because before he feared something that he knew could exist, the stories that he heard, but now he got to witness it. He got to see it uphand. He got to see what would happen to people like himself simply because someone didn't agree with him. And from there, one of the most promising part of this book is how he confronts this problem, how he confronts his fear and realizing that it's not just paranoia but an actual real fear, something to be terrified of, that this isn't just in his head, this could actually happen to him, and his determination to do something about it. That compared to his two friends who also have their own ideas of what a solution to the problem should be. one of his friends supposing that he should go and tell the public, he should tell newspapers, he should tell the school, he should tell authorities what really happened, what he really saw, the unfairness, the unjustness of it all. And another friend is like, no, keep your head down, don't do anything, this is just the way the world is, you will get hurt, you will get beaten, if you just wait a little bit longer, you'll be adult, you'll be able to leave to greener pastures. And he understands both sides but doesn't agree with either, because he's like, I can't just keep my head down and I can't just tell the authorities, because the authorities, when I told them, they didn't do anything, they didn't care, it doesn't seem like they think this is a real issue. So he can't really choose either one of those. And I loved how you saw these two opposing sides of how to solve this problem, and then the side that he chooses, which is completely different. And I thought that was an interesting thing to do, to have a book that showed there is no easy answer, there's no easy solution. Some may seem better at the moment, some may not, and it is up to the person to determine which choice will work out for them. So in this book, we see a lot of the artwork that he does. He has a superhero that he created, and it's basically his own self that he created in the form of a superhero. And the comic books that he draws and the pictures that you see of his comics kind of parallel real life, where he takes his inspiration from the terrible things that have happened and he puts those into his comics and he shares those online. And slowly you see his fear ebb away. Not that he doesn't have anything to be scared of anymore, but he has become determined that perhaps there's more to life than being scared of something, even if that fear is really real. There's a romance that goes on in here as well. He finds a dude, they fall in love, so there's that in there. But this book is definitely more about the slice of life, the coming of age, the pushing past and persevering through your fears, and him figuring out that the world isn't as simple as he would like it to be. There's no simple answer to get justice. Justice does not always prevail, because sometimes there are bigoted, awful people, but that shouldn't stop you from wanting the truth out there, from doing what is right, from being the hero of your story. He also learns that a lot of the villains he sees learn their behavior, that it's not just as simple as, oh, they were born evil, they were born bigoted, they were born awful human beings, but they are raised that way, that they are forced by an environment that propagates that sort of emotions, that sort of action, that sort of feeling. And those feelings, those negative environments, that toxic environment causes these evil people to exist who aren't wholly evil. In one man's eyes, they would be seen as evil, but to themselves, they're just confused. So he slowly starts to recognize that the world isn't as simple as it is. Some people are just awful bigots, but some people are bigoted because that is what they were taught. And while he doesn't fully forgive that sort of thing, he learns about it. And I think those are important lessons to learn, is that the idea that you can fear something you've never seen, and then how to confront that fear after you've witnessed it before your eyes. And then the idea that sometimes your enemies are just as much victims of the evil as you are, and it twists their minds and corrupts them in ways that you can't imagine because you are outside of that. And that doesn't make it okay, but sometimes it's better to see your enemy as a human than just as some evil monster that you want to destroy and want to wreak vengeance on. So I really like this book. I think my favorite part was the art. I like the art aspect. I like seeing his art. I like seeing how he took his real life story and drew it in this imaginative way. And I liked having all the pencil shavings of it. I definitely liked what I saw more as the philosophical message of this book, which does come across as spoilery if you haven't read it, so I'm sorry about that, but I hope that it doesn't ruin your potential chance of reading this book, and if you do, then maybe you can see those sort of things while reading this book. I didn't really care about the romance going on in this book, and I don't think it really had an important factor in it outside of the fact that this boy just had to learn how to push past his fear and learned how to accept himself and not take society's ideas of what he should be ashamed of and shame himself, because as it has been said before, shame comes from within. You have to be ashamed of those things for those things to be shameful to you, and sometimes society likes to tell you that things are shameful. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and in this case they were wrong, and they were pouring on this kid ideas of what he should be ashamed of, and he took them in, and this is slowly him pushing those away, learning that he has nothing to be ashamed of, that even though there are real reasons for him to be scared of the society and its treatment towards people who are different like him, that he shouldn't be ashamed of his difference, and that he shouldn't fear his difference and let his fear of bigoted assholes get in the way of him living his life. So I think his relationship with the guy that he meets has more to do with him growing out of his fear, with him persevering through it in spite of the very real fear that he has witnessed, and less about like an actual real romance going on. So I don't think this is a romantic book at all. I definitely think it's more of a coming of age story of a gay kid just trying to figure out how to deal with the world that is not that accepting of him for various reasons, and him trying to live his best life without constantly feeling like he must be ashamed and compromise himself for the sake of some supposed safety from the world, when really the world just needs to be a better place and stop beating up kids for some supposed sin that they're committing. I definitely think that's a book if you're interested in contemporary conversations, if you're interested in those sort of ideas, then this is the book for you. I don't think that the added component of having the comic books really drew you out. Like I've mentioned before, I really do like books that have a supernatural or other component to it to kind of make the contemporary philosophical message a little different by construing it with unreality. This, I don't think the comic draws you out, so I definitely think this reads way more as a contemporary, with the added benefit of this boy's diary, which is the comic book, in it, so that you could see how his imagination takes his ideas and spins them, and takes his reality and spins his reality by his own brain. I do think that has a benefit, but I don't think it's to the point where it's like a completely different component that kind of shapes how you're supposed to think of the whole world and the world building that is that different from reality as we see it and live it. This book was good. I think I'm just going to end with that. If you have read this book or books similar, how do you feel about books that talk about a very real contemporary subject in a fictional way? I know that that's a common thing that we see in books, but more of a strictly contemporary book, because this is more strictly contemporary. How do you feel about strictly contemporary books talking about real world subjects? Do you commend them? Do they make you uncomfortable because they're not so much escapism as we want in books? Because that's how I felt. I mean, like, most books are praised for their escapism value, for giving you something to imagine on, something unreal to latch onto, so that you can deal with reality contained in an escapist world. But books like this definitely don't have that escapist value, even when they're fictional, because like reading this, I was like, shit, the world's a really awful place, and why do these people exist sometimes? And I couldn't escape away from the harsh reality of the world, because at the end of the day, this was just a reflection of the world. So how do you feel about books like that? I know that was a really long-winded question, but if you understood what I was asking in the gist of that, then comment down below and let me know. If you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those buttonys down below, and goodbye, internet.